Good morning and welcome to the City Center Community Committee regular meeting agenda for September 23rd. My name is Sherry Rollins, and with me is Councillor John Orlico and Peter Prinsloo. And I want to begin the meeting by stating, doing the treaty acknowledgement and that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples. And in the national homeland of the Red River Métis, our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. And we're really grateful to be partnering with them in so many different ways. So we'll begin with the minutes of the previous meeting. So moved by Councillor Orlico.
Absence now?
That was carried unanimously, and we'll do an absence but moved. Councillor Cindy Gilroy is our delegate to the capital cities, and we're hosting the capital cities conference for the next few days. So Cindy Gilroy is on council business and is away, and we're really grateful for her hard work to on the capital cities organization. So moved by Councillor Orlico, and that too is carried unanimously. We'll move on to delegations.
That's right. So first up, regarding plan approval at 405, 411, and 415 Ballantrae Drive, which is report 2. We have Michelle Kubasewicz. I apologize.
Michael Kubasevich
Yes.
is here with us in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you would like to go ahead and join us at the end of the table there, we'll put 10 minutes on the clock for you. And Michael is joined by Madhurima Das and Santan Singh.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So whoever needs to be at the mic needs to be at the end of the table, and then I welcome you to the table. You can sit together if you'd like at the end of the table. If you have a presentation, Josh will help you. Ballantrae Drive being in the
Refinery District.
River Heights, yeah, for Gary Ward. Sugar beets. Nobody in his dad's that's presenting, I take it. Good, or both.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We have a short presentation of about 5 minutes. We'd be happy to go through with it. Through that for you. Madhurima will be presenting it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, respected councillors. My name is Madhurima Das, and I, along with my colleagues, Michael and Santan, would be representing Ironclad Developments for the plan approval of 405, 411, and 415 Ballantrae Drive. The sequence of the presentation will be as follows: a brief introduction about the organization, followed by site context and development proposal. To begin with, Ironclad Developments, it is a multidisciplinary team that focuses on the design, development, and construction of purpose-built rentals within Winnipeg and across Canada. The map depicts Ironclad projects around the Rapid Transit Plaza Station, which perfectly aligns with our Winnipeg and complete community's objectives of having vibrant centers and corridors, and at the same time promoting high-quality, pedestrian-oriented environments around transit stations. Speaking about site context, the subject property is a major redevelopment site situated on Ballantrae Drive, north of Abinogi-Mikana and west of the Manitoba Hydro Corridor. The site is located within walking distance and short drive to a variety of amenities, groceries, and employment zones. As far as zoning is concerned, the site is zoned as RMU, residential mixed use, and our design proposal complies with the scale of the development, which permits higher density and taller apartment buildings. Like I mentioned, our development proposal is compliant with the prerequisites of the RMU zoning, like lot area per dwelling unit, building height. We are proposing 208 dwelling units comprising of 66 one-bedroom, 92 two-bedroom, 27 three-bedroom, and 23 bachelor studios. Moving on with the site plan, the design has 3 buildings, A, B, C, 6 stories each, forming a U-shaped internal courtyard for the residents. Underground parking and surface parking has been proposed with careful consideration of the site landscaping. The proposed development has indoor and outdoor amenity spaces for its residents, which include a fitness center, rooftop patio, and a fenced dog run. Every unit will have its own private balcony. Garbage enclosures are situated at the center of the 3 buildings, which are in accordance with the City of Winnipeg dumpster enclosure guidelines. Moving on with the parking layout, vehicular access will be provided via Ballantrae Drive, followed by the existing access road. The access road would be shared among the residents of Phase 1 and Phase 2 crossings. A total of 213 stalls, including visitor and accessible parking, is proposed, evenly distributed between underground parking and surface parking. Lastly, bicycle parking is also provided at both these levels. The subsequent slides provide 3D views of the site development proposal from various perspectives. That is an aerial view. Moving ahead with a pedestrian view from the crossings Phase 1. This is a view from the shared access road. Again, another view from the main vehicle access. This is a view from the rear property line showing all the 3 buildings A, B, C. And lastly, how the building A would look like from the approach from Ballantrae Drive eastbound. That's the building A. With that, that is the end of the presentations.
Thank you very much. Any questions at this time?
Can you speak a little bit more about the landscaping?
We have landscaping throughout the site and plantings, with a particular emphasis on the front facing the frontage on Ballantrae Drive.
Perfect. Yeah.
There's that monument sign, which is also part of the package as well.
Okay.
And as Madam Mayor mentioned, there was a fenced dog run. That's in the northeast corner, sort of in the point of the arrow.
Nice. I like that. Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
I have a question for administration when we get to it.
Yep.
About shall not come into force and effect until the coming into force and effective DAV 24-211-486C. I don't know if you have a perspective on that. You know, sometimes both things can be true. We don't have DAV 24 before us necessarily, hasn't come into force. You're trying to run concurrently. You have a project that, you know.
There are two minor dimensional variances that we requested in conjunction with this project. That's a separate application. It's been approved by the director under delegated authority. Has been posted. The appeal period, we're halfway through the appeal period. It will expire a week today on September 30th. And at that point, that condition will be met.
Okay. And then that will be the variance of 23-176, but this is 24-211. So are you speaking to 23 or 24 or both?
I beg your pardon?
So
there are two variances. One has to do with the yards, the side yard and rear yards.
Yeah,
And
phase two.
the concern there was that
Yeah.
balconies are permitted projections within the required yard. However, on our balconies, there's mechanical equipment, basically heating and air conditioning units, and they have enclosures around them. So if you look at a balcony, maybe it's 12 feet long, there's 3 or 4 feet on one end that has an enclosure around the HVAC equipment. Because it's enclosed, that constitutes a variance.
Right.
So if you have no concerns, I have no concerns.
I beg your pardon?
If you have no concerns, I have no
No, we
concerns.
have no questions.
All right, that's end of my questions, end of your questions.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I know they came together. They registered apart. So you
Yes.
do have more time because each of you registered separately. So if you wanted to each come for 10 minutes, but if you're good, I think
We're okay.
you're sufficient. Okay. There's no more other delegations. Okay.
No.
Then we'll move into report for an occasional liquor permit. Beyond Boundaries is an event for Nuit Blanche.
Moved.
So moved. All those in favor, that's carried unanimously. Plan approval 405, 411, 415, Valentine Drive. Yeah, same question. If you have a different answer, that's great. If you don't, then I'm good.
Yeah, the variance, typically the variances will be wrapped up before the plan approval. In this case, there's still a week on the appeal period. So we're just basically saying that the plan approval is subject to the variance being approved.
It's no prejudge. Yeah. Question, any concerns at administration in the plan? I didn't hear any, so.
So we have no concerns at all. It complies with the Bishop Grandin Crossing secondary plan. We recommend approval.
So therefore, hearing what I've heard, so moved.
That's carried unanimously with thanks to the delegation. We'll move to extension of time rezoning 51 Roslyn Road. Can I hear a reason why there's an extension here?
The extension of time reports come from the land development branch. So we're not involved in preparing it, so I really can't speak to that report.
Yeah.
It would be the author of the report. I think that's Michelle Hammerberg. Let me check.
It is, yeah.
Is someone here? Ms.
We-
Savage?
We do have Angela Savage, yes.
Okay.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
There she is.
Good morning, counselors. I'm sorry I'm on Zoom. I'm jumping between the two meetings this morning.
No problem. I left it.
Council adopted this rezoning application back in 2022 to establish the RMFL Residential Multifamily Large District to construct a 15-story multifamily dwelling, and it will contain 80 dwelling units. We granted an extension last year to bylaw 99 of 22, which unfortunately has not proceeded to registration yet, and the applicant H5 Architecture has applied for a second extension to complete the registration. So it's near completion, so the public service does support this request.
Excellent. Thank you. So moved.
Thanks.
Would you like to move the chair to Councillor Orlico?
No, go ahead, John. Councilor Orlico, if you'd like to take the chair, I'm happy to move.
Sure.
Okay,
All in favor?
yeah.
Opposed? None? Carried.
We are gonna take a break then unless we have any new business
We have
till
one.
10:30. We have one new business.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
did you circulate an email?
I did, yes.
Okay, let
Yeah,
me
this is
just
regarding
catch
communities fund application.
Mhm.
And it is for the Rockwood School Parent Council. It is requesting $4,000. This falls under the River Heights Ward. And it is to bring in an artist to work with students for a mosaic project.
Lucky Rockwood, so moved by Councilor Orlico, and that was carried unanimously. Is it for the full amount, Councilor Orlico?
That's correct.
4,000, okay.
And Councilor Orlico also moves suspension of the rules to consider the item.
Yes, and that was also carried unanimously.
Perfect.
I'd love to see it. Hint, hint, Councilor Orlico, I'll take your photo. At the
Let me
event.
get there, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we'll take a break till 10:30 and then we'll resume with the public hearings.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Welcome back to City Center Community Committee. We're moving into hearings because it's 10:30 and we're moving to a subdivision and rezoning 134 Plaza Drive. It's a combined hearing. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is a subdivision and rezoning at 134 Plaza Drive under file DASZ 1/2024. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following item will also be heard at the same time, namely, Item 2 is a variance at 134 Plaza Drive under file DAV 144204/2024D. Please note, communications were received in opposition and in support of the matter, which has been distributed to all members of the committee. So at this time, if it's the will of the committee, we can hand it over to our planner to give us an overview on the matter.
Okay, good morning, councilors. The subject property is located on Plaza Drive in the Pembina Strip neighborhood of the River Heights Fort Garry Ward. The site is approximately 129,000 square feet and is currently zoned C2. Under the Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, the site is within the Mature Communities Policy Area. The applicant seeks a subdivision and rezoning to create 2 RMFL residential multiple family large zoning lots and requires variances for yards, projections, density, landscaping, and parking in order to construct 2 tower buildings with a total of 493 dwelling units on 2 lots. Lot 1 will contain 273 units. Lot 2 will contain 220 units. Both buildings will be 155 feet tall to their highest points. The total density is 268.5 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. 344 car parking stalls and 153 bike parking stalls will be provided. A car share vehicle will be provided, and the applicant indicates that the project will incorporate some affordable housing under CMHC criteria. Through the planning process, the applicant agreed to provide a sun shadow study, move the building south to help alleviate some concerns over shading, and add dwelling units and amenity space along Plaza Drive to help reduce the visual impact of the parking structure. The applicant indicated that they conducted public engagement that included roughly 1,200 flyers delivered to properties on Plaza Drive, Pembina, and Adamar. The flyer contained information on the project and a link to the project website for further information and questionnaire. The development includes a servicing agreement. It also includes conditions regarding affordable units per the city's density bonus program for affordable housing, a cross-access agreement, an arborist oversight, a car share vehicle, and director plan approval. Urban Planning Division supports the DAS set in variances with conditions because the proposed project will enable a new multiple family residential and mixed use development on a corner property that increases neighborhood population and contributes to the physical renewal and revitalization of an older neighborhood. And that concludes the overview from the public service.
Any questions, Councilor Orlikow?
Yeah, the only area, one area of concern, but I can tell there, but one area of I'm not understanding is this cross-access agreement stuff. I understand, like, is that related to the mall? Is that, like, what is that? Can you explain the cross-access agreement?
Well, my understanding is there's 2 separate lots. So the cross-access will
Between those 2 lots?
between those 2
Oh,
lots.
now I got it. Okay, now I understand. That makes sense. I didn't know if it involved the other side. Okay, so yeah, so the parking is kind of over here, over there. They're kind of 1 lot, but 2 lots.
Correct.
I guess that's cross-access. Okay, that makes sense then. Okay. The other one, we did get a letter of opposition today or yesterday or whenever we got it. Some of them are valid. And the one that's most concerning for me, and I didn't see it here today, but maybe the applicant will be able to explain it as well. They're all going to be coming out the same spot onto Pembina. for traffic. The traffic back there, not so bad, but when they're all gonna bottle up in Pembina, and that area really been built up well. There's been a lot of development in that area in the last couple of years. So have we looked at that? Has that been considered at all, the intersection there?
Yes, in the servicing agreement, there is a recommendation for a left turn stacking lane
Okay,
on Plaza Drive.
on Plaza Drive.
On Plaza
Okay.
Drive.
Okay, so that was stacked there. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yes.
Okay, so it has been looked at, and in the service agreement, it
It
says,
is in the servicing agreement, yes.
Yeah.
If you have more detailed questions, we could ask Kevin Koala to come.
no, you guys are the traffic people, so if you looked at it, you addressed what you could there. And then the other question will be maybe is how they get across, because we want to be able to have those people get across the Pembina, so they can get onto the BRT line that's across there. So we had a big application today already for those other units in the refinery district, and so hopefully have that BRT station hopping in the near future. But I'll ask the applicant about the how they. I think there's a signalized crosswalk there. And then we also have some work coming up in the near future regarding and that's why I'm keeping this in my head, regarding the Pembina overpass there, onto, over there. So it's a lot of activity going on there right now because of the build out. Even on the other side of Pembina, there's a lot of activity going on. I think I don't know how many thousands of units we're doing in that just one area alone, which is wonderful because we want to access that BRT. But I'll ask the applicant when he comes up. But you've looked at it. In the service agreement, you have the left turning lane to try to accommodate some of that bunching up.
That's correct.
Good, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, we'll move on.
Absolutely. First in support, I have Jackie Wilkie, who's the applicant, and I believe Jackie has a presentation to share with us.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is this automatically sharing?
It is.
You have to go through the Zoom meeting and select screen
Okay,
share.
just want to make sure. before I do. Good morning. As we said, we're here to discuss the development at 134 Plaza Drive. Just to give some context, this is the site of the old 10,000 Villages commercial site. Directly across the street is the Access Fort Garry health area and a commercial site that leads out onto Pembina Highway. Access for the site will be off of Plaza Drive. And will come out at a signalized intersection at Plaza and Pembina. As noted, we'll have a part of the offsite development or requirements is having the left turn stacking lane. That particular intersection right now has a signalized crossing for pedestrians on the north side of the lights because it does have a double left going south. And where we are right now backs onto the river and views out onto the bridges going across the river to St. Patel. So the subdivision is to subdivide the property into two lots to facilitate construction and costing in stages. The first is lot one is the front portion of the site. It would be developed after the back portion so that the front commercial building could stay in position for either a site construction office or other commercial uses during the time of construction of the first building. So the property line is along the entry road. That's why we have the cross access agreement. So on the drive aisle coming in and then coming between the two buildings is the property line that we're looking at. We wish to rezone to RMFL to have the highest density for this area as it is in the sweet spot for housing for the university. It is directly adjacent to the pathway that goes underneath the bridge. So we have considerable amount of bicycle parking on site to accommodate those people. It's also within walking distance of two bus stops. Or if you count the one's on the access from Abinoshi Mikina. And we want to provide land for the Plaza Drive right-of-way improvements as well. Right now, it's an undersized turn at the end of Plaza Drive. To make it a full proper turn for fire trucks and the bus that comes through there right now, we're looking at just taking a small corner out of the property on the southwest corner. The variances, the rear yard for lot 1 is against the walkway that comes up along Abenoshi, and it is reduced to 16 feet so that it pushes it as far south as possible for the building so that we are separating from the existing residential to the north. The side yard that is shown here is so that we are adjacent to the property line that's in the middle of the driveway, but it does give appropriate separation between the two buildings. The other items that we're looking at here for the parking is we have a shared parking agreement between the two. So that's where the variance for the parking to the 163 spaces and the unassigned guest parking, again, it'll be shared between the two buildings. The parking aisle, again, is based on the location of that property line as opposed to the physical location of the drive aisles. And the parking stalls as well is where they are being cut in half because of the property line. So physically, they're all the correct size. It's just from the property, they are reduced in size. And on lot 2, very similar. Wanted to point out the north side yard of 3.5 instead of 8 along the property line. We are intending to plant that entire edge as well to the parking. There's a few existing trees on the north side. We want to make sure we're augmenting that with considerable trees on the south side as well as a buffer between the two. The no west side yard, again, is in relation to the location of that property line. And then the south side yard, it says no south side yard instead of 8 feet, but I'm not quite sure if that one is quite correct. We will have a bit of a yard in there, but it's again, it's where those property lines hit. And then the van accessible stalls are measured to the curb line versus to the back of curb line on that particular spot. That's why they're showing as smaller. Excuse me. The insufficient parking lot interior landscaping, we focused it on the outside edges rather than in the middle where we have limited space and quite a bit of shading. We are proposing to have movable planters to add green to the site where possible so that we have that summer planting. But a lot of the area that is outside of the parking area is a covered awning space. We are intensifying the planting along the south side, as you can see here, with additional plant material, trees and shrubs. We did a public consultation as a virtual one with a flyer distribution of 1,173 flyers that provided a link to the project website and a survey for people to get it so that we could gain some feedback. We had 5 people respond to the survey and the results of that survey were in support. So looking at the development, as you can see here, it's going to be a stepped development so that you have the first 3 floors coming out and coming closest to the north side with, excuse me, a wing for the buildings on the narrow end of the buildings coming forward. So it's not the balconies overlooking to the north. The balconies will be looking east and west on this portion of the building. The only balconies would be the lower level ones coming out, or sorry, there's parking on most of these levels. Excuse me. My apologies, sorry. With the architecture, you can see that it's a mix of materials and colors to add to the development and the look of the space. This is a view from the river as you're coming through, so it will be visible as you come across the across the river, and will create a focal point for the development. I mean, we're sort of creating that gateway with the UC building on the south side of the Abenoshi Canal. This is another view where you can see the pathway connection along what is a hydro corridor that goes along that way as well. There are hydro lines that come off of across the river at this point as well. And we will be tying into that pathway, both between the buildings and then also along the front so that it connects the sidewalk up with the new access point. And another view coming from that same side. The elevations of the building showing the different depths of the building as we go through, as you're looking at it. And the view that you'll see from Plaza Drive itself with the building number 1. This will be immediately opposite the Access Center. And then this is a view from the east side, from the river side. The raised portion here you see is the pathway as we come through. So you can see that the building is set down at the level of the grade inside of the dike area. So it's slightly depressed from the elevation on Plaza Drive itself. And then this is the shadow study that was discussed previously where, yes, there will be shadows for the neighboring property. But it still will allow for evening and early morning sun, and the noon shadow is not as tall based on the setback of the building, or not as long, sorry, based on the setback of the building. And then for the site, just to go over some of the items that we had discussed previously, where we are expanding the turnaround at the end of Plaza Drive, reconstructing the sidewalk so that it connects up to the pathway, connecting to the pathway so that we have good pedestrian access going towards the university, and also the bus stop up on the access road for Abenoshi. The sidewalk along Plaza Drive exists all the way up and then across the street in front of the commercial space. This will give good connection to the bus stops, both on Pembina Highway, going north, you can catch a 47 and a 60, same with south. If I can have 1 minute more, please.
Yes,
just to
go
finish
ahead.
up. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then also walking directly across on the pathway connecting up to the blue line for the busway. And that is the end of our presentation.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Nope.
Don't have questions either. We can move on if you'd like. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next up in support, we have Tim Comack.
Check this thing, sorry.
And Mr. Comack also has a presentation that has been forwarded to the committee, and he will be sharing that with us shortly.
It's not letting me do the safer move.
Long time coming, Tim Comack, so it's a good milestone here.
This has been going on for a while. How do I share a screen?
Green button there.
Share the screen. You. So, now in 2024, it's going, we've been after this one since 2021-ish, with 202 being when we bought it. And I'll talk about that, but I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to present today. Our team, again, best in class, Ventura Group for home building, land development, and apartments. We've got Prairie Architects, Tower Engineering, two of the larger architectural engineering firms that had their time on this. McGowan Russell, who you just heard from, and Stantec Engineering, alongside Barnes and Duncan. It's important to articulate that because they've been intimately involved in this. We're at a Class C design, not a Class D. You know, we've gone pretty deep here. We acquired this, the Mennonite Central Committee, in 2022. They had a desire as an organization to split in two. We have some heritage and history with that organization, and the goal here was to help them facilitate their moves. The building itself, you'll note it stated vacant. The roof needs full replacement. The mechanical system that's in place is completely scrapped. And right now we have a temporary tenant in there for the movie industry, and they're kind of liking it. They're doing all the Hallmark films.
We love Hallmark films. We love all films.
It's an interesting thing to watch. So we've always intended 13 stories. That was kind of the unit count that made sense for the price for the building to then redevelop the site and be able to create kind of economic upside. We undertook a City of Winnipeg pre-application process, which I'm a big fan of. It gives you a lot of information, gets the dialogue started. And it did identify, probably the first time in my career, that we had enough services for 500 units plus, which was kind of an aha moment. I've never been in that position. I work on a lot of committees through UDI, and very often the problem is not the issue here. So the capacity is there, then notwithstanding other connections. And then we undertook further due diligence, detailed engineering studies, robust planning of architectural, mechanical, electrical, etc. Talk to hydro. And so we've kind of come to a place where we understand that this is an ideal site for intensification. We undertook a vehicle count and then a traffic study as well. So with request to your questions, more group did that work in conjunction with Stantec. So Stantec's actually produced an opinion of cost, and we've accepted that cost and provided that to the City of Winnipeg as well for the improvements. We've also worked with the province, so I've got a lot of work that I do with the province of Manitoba outside of just apartments, but with land development. And so I spoke with Angela, who's the senior flood protection engineer at Manitoba Infrastructure, and she did an analysis on the site, and they've got no concerns. She's written a letter to that effect. We shared that letter with the City of Winnipeg as well. We did the public engagement. It was quiet. I then went and surveyed the businesses as well. Just spoke to them, and by far and large, more people. Good thing. Sure. Those are my favorite meetings. Yeah. And then otherwise, we had some other socialized meetings to socialize the project. We did that with federal, provincial, and municipal individuals, as well as CMHC. They're actually quite deep into this one at this point, because the model that we're going for is going to house a lot of affordable units, way more than normal. And then, as I said, the pre-app resulted in some collaboration requirements. We did some shadow studies. We met the requirements for the shadow studies. We moved the building around. And now we've had 2 supportive planning reports. So the site's been posted for about a month now. And look, none of us are perfect, and I should have caught that mistake. And it is what it is. And life goes on. But we've had, the site posted for a full month, which I think, will speak to the fact that the room is relatively empty today. On our end here, the Access Health Center was one of the things that we thought was primarily quite interesting to be near, because we'll have a mix of students and downsizers that will be here. And there's been some announcements through the province that they intend to kind of better utilize these spaces. So there might be enhanced services here, and that might become something that's very interesting for residents. And then the full-scale suburban retail shopping mall. So actually I know the individuals that bought that mall recently, and they have every intention to revitalize it and uplift it a little bit from where it's at. And so that proximity was important. I think we all know the site, but just to talk to it, it is along kind of one of the feeder bus routes and secondary lines for the rapid transit. It connects to the rapid transit station. If you take the AT trail, it's 800 and so meters. If you take the standard Plaza Drive sidewalks, it's about 850. So we're connected to TOD in my view. You're also directly connected to the University of Manitoba underneath the bridge. You can ride a bike, you can walk. It's a 10-minute walk. It's actually quite convenient. And in all cases, to access the services that you need, there's no crossing roads, which is good. The other big part about this is that it's going to create quite a bit of vibrancy on Abiniji-McKenna. And so from my perspective, the second conversation should take place here, because right now it's kind of a solemn stroll as you go from the mall site at the back end of the mall across the river. And here we'll add a whole bunch of eyes on the street, a bunch of activity at grade. We'll have units pouring out at the actual grade level on the building closest to the mall site. And then also we're enhancing the site with new benches, which we've agreed to, and additional lighting. And so that helps with the safety at night as well. The site actually ranks pretty high for walk-in bike sport too, something to just point out. And we're incorporating a lot of bike storage in the site. And then without hammering on it too much, this is a community mixed-use center, and this is where we're wanting the intensification. I sit on all these housing accelerator fund committees and stuff, and this is an ideal location for it. Being a little funny here, just trying to put some humor into the process, but these are going to be mostly bachelor units and 1-bedrooms, and so they're going to provide an affordable option for people in the area. That's new construction, but we're going to be deep involved with CMHC. Plus, we've agreed to the unit count. I think 67 was proposed by the city of Winnipeg. We're okay with that. 67 affordable suites. And so from that perspective, the federal, provincial, municipal funding grants that we need to achieve, we've vetted it, and we believe that we can get it. It'll form a big part of this project, which is exciting. And then I want to just reiterate, I'll probably do it again, but we fully accept the recommendations of the planning report. So we're prepared to do the work. The widen Plaza Drive for the turnaround, for the emergency vehicles, for the buses, might even actually help to enhance the bus service that can be provided there, and have every intention to play ball with the expansion of the turning lanes. I won't read through the details on this one, but we've bought this site in 2022. We started conversations in 2021, and now we're here in 2024, and a lot of work has taken place. We spent a lot of money and a lot of time and had a lot of professionals involved. And we've had an exceptionally good experience in the city of Winnipeg, I have to note. It's been very positive. We've gotten all the information we needed. It's been a very, very positive experience. You've seen the sites, but from the perspective of what we're doing, you'll see the site closest to the river because of grade. That's where the parking lot's going to be in the first 3 floors here, and then apartment units will be down to grade on this side here, and that'll screen the actual parking lot. What isn't being talked about is the fact that we're going to have rooftop patios on this building here and here. And so there's going to be some activation kind of above grade for views of the river. What those will do is give sight lines to everybody that might not otherwise have a view of the river in the building. They'll be able to flood out onto the patio and take in the views. I mean, that's something that we need to celebrate as a city, and something that, if you take a ride down the river, maybe in the last 100 years, we haven't fully activated what could have been activated there. Lots of glazing, so the city's planning department and collaboration did result in enhanced glazing, lots more sight lines. Our amenity spaces will be bright, open air. Again, sight lights out to the street and whatnot. And then when done, 493 units of housing, and a lot of this is going to be affordable. Some of the things that we want to make sure that you're aware of is that we're dividing the lane down the middle. And what that does is that forces the sharing between the two sites, and that's why that variance is needed for the property line. And what that does, that forces it, if there ever was 2 owners, which there won't be, but they have to get along, right, to use it to get in and out. And then, as you can note, the rooftop area here, this exterior common area is quite large. You probably throw a football. Again, we encourage that because someone might take a spill, but we put a lot of thought into that. And then from a site area perspective, I just wanted to make sure that the folks understand the chronology of what was developed out here. You'll kind of notice that it tapers down. And a lot of that has to do with as they developed this out, they kind of came into the 90s and the high interest rate market kicked in, and things became very difficult to develop. And so things went from large scale down into smaller scale. You'll see the higher rise stuff that was built out of the back, and we're kind of mimicking what's being done there. And then another view. I mean, that's, I think, one of the nicest views that you can incorporate in the city. And so we're excited about that. What you'll also notice is the trail that we're talking about. So it's the AT here, it runs underneath here, takes you right to the University of Manitoba, which is great. You can take a bike, you can take a scooter, you can walk. And then this is the turnaround that we intend to enhance as well. So that should make things good. You can also see people enjoy going down this riverbank here. And I do believe our city has plans for future enhancement. I've left a whole bunch of reasons as to why you should approve this, and I'm going to ask for an extra minute. I'm not going to read all of them, but just want to read. I think one of the most important pieces of this puzzle here is that, to quote the city, the applicant worked with the Urban Planning Division through a planning process leading up to completion of the application. During this time, a series of concessions, revisions, alterations, and improvements were made to the project's design criteria. And I want you guys to know that collaboration process that we undertook was thorough. And a lot of concessions were made and a lot of redesign was done. And so for us, from our perspective, we've done everything we can to accommodate developability of this density, which is high, and provide the housing we think that will work in this area. So with that being said, that's our presentation, and I want to thank you for the time today.
Questions, Councilor? I have one. You participated in the density bonus program. We're still early days here in the density bonus program. Do you have thoughts on the process? How it impacted, positive or negative, your application?
Well, I think everything's got room for improvement. I think right now, as a developer, one of the challenging things that we deal with when it comes to affordable housing, this is kind of a broader message, is that rebates are very difficult to deal with because CMHC and your lenders won't factor that into any type of savings. You need to be able to cash flow the project with or without them. And then the other piece is when you have multiple layers of, programs in play and they don't match up. Right. And so you're not speaking the same language. And so to some extent, when the city comes up with this interpretation of affordable and CMHC has another interpretation, and those two interpretations are right between deeply affordable and affordable. And so you have three interpretations. It's better to maybe try to find a way to get those pieces to work together.
Then what's your understanding of the cities versus CMHC versus like what you're going to be doing here? What is your understanding if you think that they don't speak to each other? What are your understanding of the affordability?
The rent requirements are lower for the city's version of affordable, as I understood it. And the majority of our units need to match up with CMHC. So from our perspective, I think we've got some room there. The program itself, I thought, was well placed because it does give you some malleability to work with the city on what you can and can't do. You're not stuck in a tight box. From the perspective of putting these projects together, we're talking close to 80 million per building. The very difficult market with the interest rates. Thankfully, that seems to be going down. But with everything, it's just another piece that you got to try to fit into the puzzle and make work. When I read it initially, I was happy with it. And when I got the feedback from the City of Winnipeg and had dialogue with the planners, a couple of them actually, it alleviated most of my concerns, and that's why we've stated that we're prepared to move ahead.
Okay, perfect. That's my only question. Thank you.
So those are all the persons that I had registered in support. I'll just check with the gallery if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak in support to this application. Anybody in opposition or anybody for information? Seeing none, Madam Chairperson.
Questions for public service?
Any comments from public service? I'll do my closing, but you see the public service seems to be all right. They support the project. Anything outstanding though that I should be aware of?
We're in full support of the project. We believe it meets complete communities 2.0 objectives. Nothing to really add.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
I had a question for the public service. They received it during the hearing, so I'm interested to hear the answer. It was brought, not necessarily in my words, but it was brought forward as part of the hearing from Mr. Hodges, who wrote us a letter. And so pertaining to servicing in Fort Garry, you tend to develop on a floodplain. What's underground is not necessarily as reliable as in other places to develop in the city of Winnipeg, but no concerns for the public service here. I know it in the report, but wanted to comment specifically if you could.
So as far as the riverbank and the pipe crossing, the pipes are located between the two bridges crossing the Red River. They're two interceptors. They're currently offline. They're being bypassed. They're both being renewed. Pipes should not fail based on construction adjacent. That's probably a critical issue to begin with. So they're both being renewed to a much higher standard, more robust. The distance is significant. That Waterways had zero concerns with the construction. There's also the requirement within Schedule B of the ACG for a geotechnical report showing that there's no impacts to the stability of the primary line of defense or dike that runs between this site and the river. And that should alleviate any concerns as far as riverbank stability and whatnot. That dike needs to meet a pretty high factor of safety because it needs to withstand a significant flood event. So there's some pretty good safeguards in place regarding that.
Okay, thank you very much.
So at this time, we'll call back the applicant for a rebuttal.
It's up to you.
We don't have anyone, so unless you guys have questions.
Nope. Okay, we'll move on to motions then, Councilor.
The report of the Winnipeg Public Service was taken as read.
All those in favor, that's carried unanimously.
The receipt of public representation to be concluded.
All those in favor, that's carried unanimously.
With the recommendation of Winnipeg Public Service to be concurred in and forward to the Standing Policy Committee on Property Development. That's it. Oh, sure. Yeah, it's pretty well explained it. We have one, I know you not ever have to do a pre-app again, even though you like them and I like them, but council decide otherwise. So unfortunately, but I think that process today shines about working together collaboratively, trying to figure out little details and having that time to do that work. But so I think that really bear fruit today. And you saw that. It is a very large development. But again, with one person in opposition, shows me your consultation was quite outstanding. I also appreciate the fact, again, which is nice in a pre-app, that you kept me informed of the project as it went forward and addressed my concerns about trees and landscaping. And we don't want to just be two big buildings with a barren concrete parking lot. You've outstandingly done that, and we've addressed the issues. I knew what we talked about was the Plaza Drive, the access, egress in and out. I am very pleased about the housing. I hope that the decrease in foreign students doesn't really hurt you too much in that, but we'll see how that rolls out. That's more of a you, not an us thing. But I think the demand for this property, just with the sight lines, the amenities that you're putting in there, the commercial beside it. So again, I'm not sure what they're doing there. I haven't really been to that mall, as well as seniors, people who want to downsize quite a bit. You know, there's some projects going on in River Heights, Fort Garry right now. They're smaller, but they're really, really expensive. So that's really taking some people out of the game there. So I like the variety of different units you have, the different price points you have. I think the area that Councillor Rollins did point out, being addressed again with the province and with us, is the dike. We know climate change is brutal. This came back from Arizona. They have no water. Told them we'd sell them some. No kidding. But and I found out actually it's a market for water, but weird. We want to make sure that the flood doesn't impact it, your building in that regard. And it seems that, and I've heard today with the services again, the new trunk lines going through, we'll have the capacity to handle this there. So it really is an ideal spot, but underutilized. The sight lines for people who live in there will be pointed out. One of the pride and joys of Winnipeg, which we haven't really embraced enough, we're trying is the river. It is the Red River. That is just something, so many places, Saskatoon does a pretty good job at it. It's such a beautiful thing to have that opportunity to have a river flowing beside you. You don't have to go to the cabin all the time to go watch river flow. And then the affordable housing is really quite good. So I just want to thank all parties involved. I think this is a wonderful development and a wonderful addition for Winnipeg. So I'm fully supportive.
If I can add my 2 cents. Full disclosure, that's my healthcare center, the Fort Garry Access Clinic Center, right across the street from this development. And you know, whether it's you know, being in line and not being able to get my shot because they're having a clinic and everyone's already got it. I know how active it is, and it was in our Sherry Z zone on Corden, and then it moved to the Access Center in another Sherry zone in Fort Garry, along with Councillor Lukes. Really excited about it because I like you, think exactly what Mr. Comac's presentation and Jackie Wilkie's presentation before it said. Beautiful example, but also so much need. I think so much housing need here. So with that, that was passed unanimously.
Okay.
I called the question in my head, but implicit, and then we'll close out the hearing and do the variance.
So the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
That was also carried unanimously.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
On variance? Okay, there we are. Let the report of the public service be taken as read.
Carried unanimously.
The receipt of public representation be concluded.
Motion carried unanimously.
But according to subsection 2473 of the Sinaway Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and an applicable secondary plan. B, does not create a substantial or adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, convenience of the adjoining property, adjacent area, including an area separated by the property by a street or waterway. C, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the inverse effect on the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property. And D, is compatible with the area in which a property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons, same as before.
Also carried unanimously.
With the recommendation of Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
That's also carried unanimously.
Public hearings with respect to this application be concluded. Thank you with that many things.
Thank you very much. Also carried unanimously.
Please.
Thank you. Okay, take care.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
The board law? Yeah, the board
Oh.
law.
Item 3 is a zoning agreement amendment at 309 Wardlaw Avenue under file ZAA 12 of 2024. And the process will be the same. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Mr. Robinson to give us an overview.
Thank you. The subject property is located on the north side of Wardlaw Avenue, 2 properties west of Donald Street in the River Osborne neighborhood of the Fort Rouge, East Fort Garry Ward. The property is located within a mature community under Complete Communities 2.0. The property is on C1. It's 3,976 square feet in size and contains a 2-story commercial building. The applicant seeks to remove a caveat in order to support the future establishment of a personal service, physio, athletic, and massage therapy use in the existing building. In 1986, the property was rezoned C1 with a zoning agreement prohibiting any principal uses on site other than office. The proposal for a personal service use is not currently permitted on site, and therefore the applicant is applying for the subject zoning agreement amendment to discharge the 1986 caveat. The Urban Planning Division recommends approval of discharging the caveat for the following reasons. The current restriction only allows for office use, prohibiting the establishment of personal services which the division believes are suitable for this location. The caveat was put in effect in 1986. Since 2006, development in Osborne Village has been governed by the Osborne Village Neighborhood Plan. This has newer policy objectives for the neighborhood. Applicable plan policies allow for any type of commercial use on this property, provided it's physically compatible with the context, is 2 to 4 stories in height, and does not present objectionable operational characteristics. The subject proposal meets all of those objectives. In addition, the C1 zoning district is the lowest intensity commercial zoning district. It limits commercial uses which may have a greater impact on neighboring land uses. The zoning agreement also contains a requirement for city center plan approval. Now that the plan is in place, Osborne Village design review by the director is required, so the division believes that this is no longer necessary. And so together, the plan, the zoning district, and the design review process provide sufficient measure to ensure that the property is developed in accordance with contemporary council policies without the subject caveat. That concludes the public service overview.
Any questions?
Thanks. Good synopsis. Thanks.
Is there anyone who just looked at this?
Yes, we have the applicant registered, Mr. Ryan Walkowski.
Hello. So sorry, I've never done this before.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I'll walk you through. You have 10
Yeah.
minutes
Okay.
to present. You don't have to take all of it if you don't want. You just speak to the zoning agreement amendment, which is and your application.
Okay. So the building itself is not really going to be modified. The interior will be modified with relocating the staff room to the upstairs from the downstairs, a couple things like that. But as far as change of use goes, the capacity or the total number of people that are going to be there isn't going to change very much. So we're looking at 10 to 12 people at a time in the building with rotation for clients to come and go. We have my business partner owns an existing massage therapy clinic and wellness center a little bit further up Pembina, which currently is in a lease space. So this will be a lease to purchase type agreement that we're entering with the owner. So we're going to lease it until the other lease is out and then purchase the building. So removing this caveat entirely rather than amending it to include our purposes would make this worthwhile having as an investment property for us. So we're going to move that existing clinic over there, and we're also going to open a second clinic under the same thing to be targeting concussion and brain injury rehabilitation.
Excellent. I don't have any questions. Do you, Councillor Orlikow?
I do not.
All right. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, next up in support, we have Jenna McMahon.
Good morning. To just add to what my business partner was speaking to, I'm the sole owner of a company called Equilibrium Massage Therapy and Wellness Center, and we are looking to expand our home in order to expand the offerings that we can provide to our existing wellness community as well as the community at large. We also have quite a close to home endeavor that we have been working on behind the scenes for the last couple of years after I personally sustained a head injury myself and realized that there's a lot of cracks in the system that could be further supported with more allied healthcare that's just more readily accessed by lay people who just get injured living in their daily life. So that is a great endeavor that we hope to accomplish in this space as well. And we require just more square footage. It's close to where we are right now. It's a 4-minute drive away. So yeah, we just feel quite passionate about finding a new home for our clinical space and hope that we can remove this caveat so that we can move in and yeah, just continue servicing the wellness community at large in the city. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.
And lastly, in support, we have Mr. Jonah Levine registered.
Thanks very much. My name is Jonah. I'm the commercial realtor who brought together the vendor and the tenant / future owner of this property. In my view, so in addition to everything they've said, you know, a bit backdrop on their pursuits to establish a clinic. Jenna and Ryan are looking to acquire a building, and we identified this property. The you know, a lot of folks who are small business owners, they use the acquisition of buildings, basically supplanting the payment of rent in favor of payment of a mortgage as a key retirement strategy. And so that's in part what's driving this decision, in addition to the fact that it's a suitable building for them. And when advising them of the future value of this asset as a retirement backstop for them, you know, looking at the zoning amendment agreement that's on title, you know, it seems to me that the C1 zoning with the restrictions of just office would substantially limit the future saleability of the asset, and so it's germane to their current investment. In that there's a variety of different personal service uses that, if this was modified in any way other than to kind of simply remove it and leave the C1 zoning in place, there would be a limitation on the future saleability of the asset as well as the current use of it. So, you know, there are a variety of different personal service uses, medical types of uses that would see value in this building, and C1 zoning seems to me to be an appropriate level of restriction for the asset as it's currently configured. That's all.
Those are all the folks that I have registered, I'll just check with the gallery if there's anybody else here who wishes to speak in support, anybody in opposition, or anybody for information. Seeing none, Madam Chairperson.
If you wanna.
You can go here where you want. Okay, the report with the public service be taken as read.
That was carried unanimously.
Receipt of public notification be included.
That was carried unanimously.
The recommendation Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the EPC via the prior rezoning process. The reasons being, while I do support the idea that you want to use it as an investment property for later, and that's not really germane to me today, but what really was germane to me was that we do have a new plan that they work years on in the area. I do, I don't say don't care, but I'm just saying my job is looking at the different types of the layers of different policies. And so that caveat is a little bit older. And so I think the existing PDO for the area does supersede that. So based upon the administration's comments there, I see no reason why not to support the administration's support for this.
Yeah, as a local councillor, I'm always sort of confused when I see a caveat, and I shouldn't be confused because I should actually be prompted to kind of clean up some of the caveats that we have in Osborne Village. But they are surprising. They go day back from the 80s. So I was not a city councillor. I was an elementary school student in the 80s. Just so you know, I'm 50 this year, but I'm not that old. And so, every now and then we have a report like this where you're surprised that you have this prohibitive caveat, whether it's for a cafe or if it was up to me, the whole of the village would be rezoned, a multi-use, so you can have residential and commercial on the main floor. But here we are. So moved by Councillor Orlikow, and that was also carried unanimously.
And that's the public hearing with respect to the application be concluded.
That was carried unanimously, with thanks to all the parties
done.
today.
Thank you. Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council. Thank you.
To adjourn.
So moved and carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you.